friends, I'm Liz.
I'm Robby. Welcome back to our channel Bookworm Couple. Today we are going to be starting a new series, a new journey together. This is The Lost Hero, the first book in the Heroes of Olympus series.
Or as I like to call it, Schmercy Jackson, because I keep forgetting the name
Jackson.
of it.
That is the name of the series, right?
Yeah, The Lost Heroes. Hold on, I have it right here
Heroes
on
of
my
Olympus.
Kindle.
Yeah.
Heroes of Olympus. It's gone now. The Lost Heroes, The Heroes of Olympus.
Yeah, there we go.
Book one.
Nailed it. Yeah, this is the first book. So what did you think of your second foray into the Riordanverse?
Oh, I loved it, and I didn't like it at the same time.
Interesting.
It was very medium for me.
Yeah, really?
Because the highs were high and the lows were low.
Pretty low.
So it's pretty medium.
Yeah, I had an interesting journey with this. I think that it definitely floundered a bit in the middle, though I will also say that's definitely partially from my own expectations as a reader. Around the 60% mark, which is where a normal, Percy Jackson book would end. I was like, I'm ready for this to be done.
100%.
We were only a little over halfway.
I think that was probably my major dislike.
So just kind of changing some of those expectations. But for the most part, I liked it. I do like our new crew.
I really like the
Interestingly
trio
enough, I will say I think I like Piper and Leo more than I like Jason.
So easily.
Far, I think
Jason's also like
Jason's like
the front
stalwart.
man. Yeah, and they're like the
Jason's the straight man, and
they're the personalities.
Yeah, exactly,
they're the personalities. They're the ones you're rooting for.
Oh,
Jason is just kind of like
I do like
there.
Jason. I think it's interesting, and I actually wrote this down in my notes, and I do kind of like it. One of the positives of the length of the book is everyone gets a chance to shine. This isn't a book where just Percy gets to do cool stuff and Grover is gone.
And we delve in emotionally with everyone, which I love.
Yeah, so everyone gets a chance to shine, and I also kind of like that Jason doesn't really do anything super cool until the very end.
Yeah,
like,
he's kind of just
Piper
a guy.
and Leo have huge moments and like big moments of growth, and like Leo in particular fully saves the day multiple times, which is great because he's the comedic relief
but also not. You know what? I think this is my biggest hot take from this, is I love the OG trilogy, but I think, obviously, which makes sense, these three are so much more fleshed out, so there's part of me that's like, I enjoy reading Piper, Leo, and Jason more than I enjoyed reading Annabeth, Percy, and Grover. Because
they're also a little bit older.
They're a little bit older, and that's probably part of it. There's a little bit more maturity there, and then also I just think, like, because they're so fleshed out and there's so much time, I feel like I know them a little bit better, and so therefore I think I'm just like on their team.
Yeah. I'm excited, and I will say this about the book too, for better or for worse, there is an absolutely unbelievable amount of setup done for like the overarching plot, as well as each character's individual plot. Yeah. Which we'll obviously get into a little bit more when we go into the spoiler section of the video, but anything else overall you want to say about it?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I think my overall thoughts on it were, it is a hit and miss start, but the ending made me very excited.
Yeah, and I think the characters brought me back.
For sure. Yeah. All right, so going forward, we're going to start talking about spoilers, so if you have not read this book yet, stop here. We will be here when you finish, so go ahead and read it, come back. But yeah, so we're going to start talking with spoilers now. Spoilers. Anything in particular you want to start with?
Want to spoil?
Yeah, what do you want to spoil immediately out of the gate for the people who haven't left yet?
No, I don't think there's anything. No.
No? Okay. I mean, I guess we can start at the beginning. I do think that... I don't know that we can sing that. Because legally...
Just the beginning part of it. Nobody knows what it is.
The way that this starts, and you kind of get dropped in media res with Jason, and the mist and the way that it affects their memory.
Yeah.
I kind of don't think was interesting. I don't think it was used to its full extent.
Because I also feel like part of it was why the book felt so long.
Because they were trying to figure stuff out.
Yeah, and it was like constantly being like, there's still a mystery, I don't know.
My thing was just like, there came a point for each of them where they each basically individually decided whether it was whether you actually read them doing it, or it was just kind of inferred by their actions and thoughts and feelings, that they're just like, okay, like that's what it's been. Like there's literally, I'm specifically thinking of a Leo chapter where he goes, yeah man, and that mist stuff was crazy, like Jason I thought Jason was one of my best friends, and then it was getting kind of awkward with him and Piper. We're like starting to date and stuff, but now I realize none of that really happened. And whatever, it's kind of cool. He's still a good dude, and we're still friends.
Still
and I was just like, that's cool that you can be super malleable, but it feels like everyone kind of ended up that way. Which I guess, what else are you gonna do?
That's exactly the thing. Like because
it just felt like it's such a huge thing.
Yeah, it's a huge thing, and also like I said, it like lasted the whole.
Well, because
time.
Jason's whole plot is trying to find his memory back, so that I understand. But like, it felt like it didn't really have too much of an effect, of an effect on like their relationships. I would have liked, I guess specifically Leo and Jason like having, and Leo and Piper, who don't really interact a ton, being like, what is real, and like initiating those friendships and stuff like that, as opposed to just like.
But I do guess they just go immediately on a quest. So like you kind of have to 100%. You have to go in really fast.
Yeah, that's true. But, I mean, and that also does lead to another thing. A ton happens in this book. And there was
a lot of different gods and goddesses.
A lot of gods and goddesses, which I liked. But there was a bit, especially like when like everything happens and they get taken to camp, and then they immediately leave on a quest after essentially being like, we're taking over these cabins now.
Yeah,
and it all just happened so fast. And that's not necessarily an issue, except for the fact that I do think the middle of the book kind of floundered a bit, because
no, I agree with you. I mean, I struggled finishing this one.
It followed the same structure as a regular Percy Jackson book, but nothing super changed. But it was 200 pages longer.
Yeah.
So which essentially just means like the normal Percy Jackson thing is like, we get to camp, there's inciting incidents, we go on a quest. There's multiple stops on the quest that are essentially their own little short stories. Yeah. And things happen, and we get more information to figure out where we need to go next. Well, and also they just added a bunch of extra ones.
Well, and I also, I agree with that. Because we also got like...
And they really slowed down. So I'm like, why did we have to spend the beginning of the book going so fast? Yeah. And like doing so much development and so much... like overarching plot development from the very beginning when they get attacked by those storm spirits. And keeps talking about his mistress. And I'm like, okay, we get it. This guy is somehow related to the big bad. Like, I was just like, all right.
Well, and I think, too, that we were bringing in so many Roman gods as well. So there was it felt like there kind of had to be a lot of that, like, not downtime, but you know what I mean? Like, but I do agree with you. I think it could have done with, like, 3.
Like, my thing about, like, almost every single one of their quest stops was I was like, there was exactly one part of that I liked, and the rest of it was too long.
It was filler, yeah.
Like, the Piper one was great. We get to see, in the mall, we get to see Piper, like, really shine and do a lot of stuff. I was like, could have been quite a few pages shorter.
100%.
The stuff with Midas, I was like, cool, Jason finally gets to be a badass.
So much shorter.
And we get to hear, but the only part of that that I liked was Jason gets to be really cool, for like the first time in the book, really, and then we hear about the hunters, and so we know Thalia is going to show up.
Yeah.
Other than that, could have cut the whole thing. I was just like, I don't care.
Well, and I also wonder too, like reading this, there was so much of it that was more mature because we are getting older. There was a lot more romance. There was the way they were handling things.
I did really like.
I thought it was delightful.
Well, actually, one of my favorite aspects.
I agree. Well, but then I think one part that really took me out was in those like excursions was the like random extreme silliness, because I was like, I don't feel like I'm there anymore, and I'm like, why are we being so silly?
Yeah.
Like, and I love being silly, but it just felt like it was like a jump between a kid's book and like a teen book.
Which is what it is.
Yeah.
Because the first was solidly. I mean, I think even the first series was kind of between middle grade and YA, and maybe leans more towards middle grade, and I think this would probably lean more towards YA just because of the age of the characters. But I will say, like, the first note I have about this book is, okay, there's a huge change here because we're going from first person perspective to third, and I was interested to see how that's going to affect, and we have multi POVs for the first time.
The whole book,
and I appreciate that very much.
I love
for Leo and Piper. I think that's great. I also think Jason, while an interesting character, especially with his memory gone, is not an interesting enough character to carry the POV alone like Percy was. But and maybe that'll change, but that's just my feeling from what we got from Jason in this book.
Yeah.
But the main thing that I think it did affect, by the end of the book I was used to it. Yeah. The main thing that it did affect, I think, was the humor. because the Percy Jackson humor works because it, and I've said it in previous videos, I think it's really funny because it literally does sound like a 40, 50, 60-year-old man who is
being
the age of the guy writing this book. Being like, this is what middle schoolers think is funny, and also I can't curse. So like,
there was I highlighted
and in
stuff.
this book, I don't think it.
No,
I think
I don't think it works.
He's trying to use the same humor, but I don't think it works as well.
That's exactly
so I'm interested
what
to see if that adjusts as we move on, because it was one of my favorite parts of the Percy Jackson books. Not in the way that I'm like, this is true humor here, but I'm like, this is like part of what makes the series so like heartwarming for me. And I think it's always funny that like this 14-year-old kid is running around like saying insults that you would see in like an old black and white movie, this is what the kids are saying. Like, and it does feel a bit stunted in this book.
One of the first things I highlighted was a classic booyah.
Booyah! Yeah, sure.
I was like, wow, that immediately brought me back.
Yeah.
I highlighted a decent amount.
But yeah, so I'm interested to see how that develops over the course of the books. One bit of humor that did work for me was Hedge entirely. Anytime you give me like an old,
well, I think a caricature is funny.
Man is very. I'm always gonna be like, yes, 100% yes. The fact that he gets a romance in it, I was like, yeah, sure, Hedge, you're good. But also gets a little bit of a character moment where he's like, I'm coming to terms with the fact that I'm like, I am a guardian.
Yeah.
Instead of like I'm gonna be the I'm gonna be the fighter.
Right.
So I always think characters like that are caricatures are very funny.
Well, that's I think easier to take in this kind of a media rather than like. Yeah, it's not like a one-off joke. It's just like a character that we can look at as adults and be like, we understand exactly the general like stereotype you're going for, and this is very funny.
Yeah, the really buff,
really
buff gym teacher.
Yeah, and like who's like really supportive but also kind of a jerk.
Yes,
you
absolutely.
Know?
Yeah,
like really wants you to succeed but also is not putting up with crap.
Yeah. Yeah, I really liked him. I was really glad he didn't like die immediately. Which I didn't really think he was gonna, but I was like, oh no, Hedge, my favorite character, he's already gone. And Annabeth shows up. We're back. We're seeing
Annabeth.
some campers.
I still love Annabeth so much.
Annabeth's great. I loved Butch. Butch was fun.
And Piper. Yeah.
Yeah. But how did you feel about Piper's standoff with?
Oh, you know I hated it.
With I'm forgetting her name. It's escaping me. But the head of the Aphrodite cabin. You know who I'm talking about. I don't know. Whatever. I'm bad. We just released a video where I said I'm great with names in books, and I usually am, but I'm dropping it this time.
I want to say Claire, it's not Claire. Drew,
thank you. There it is, Drew. Yeah. Drew was the worst.
Well, she was, I will say, like, I mean, you know me, and, like, the jealous girl thing, especially, but, like, this kind of a thing brings it around to, like, this is the time when it all begins, when you're a young woman, at least in my experience. It's probably even a little bit younger. So, again, having this... Drew was such an extreme caricature of the, like, bossy, mean, jealous person that it was a little bit easier for me to swallow in this context of being like, these are teens. This is, like, when I experienced that kind of a thing and hated it, but, like, I don't, like, want to read it, but I did also think it wasn't... I was glad that it wasn't drawn out.
No.
Because it definitely could have been, and I was just very glad for that. And I thought it made for a very interesting turn for Piper and her coming into her own self-confidence and her beauty, which was inner and outward, and I thought that was really beautiful. There was a quote from Jason that I loved, that he said he'd never thought of beauty as a form of power, but that's the way Piper had seemed powerful. I was like, oh yeah, baby. Oh yeah. Which I loved, because there was also some back and forth with, like, the classic, like, she doesn't even need the makeup. I don't even like her with makeup on. She's so much prettier without it. Which, like, I get, and I understand where the messaging is with that, but I'm also one to just always encourage women to find their beauty in whatever way that is. This, hopefully, is without makeup, all of the above, but I thought that quote specifically was so cool of how that, like, coming into your power, stepping into yourself is beautiful, which is also very powerful. So I loved that.
Well, that was, I mean, that I wrote that quote down as well. There is a direct quote from Aphrodite in this where she's like, beauty is you being true to yourself. It's very hard to do, but that's true beauty. And I was like, I highlighted that and
all the
saved
time
it.
we got
with
Aphrodite.
Yeah, I think that what they did with Aphrodite, what he did with Aphrodite in this book was great. I really enjoyed it. We got a very interesting look at love and beauty and the power that they hold. And also, we get a look at, like, the rite of passage that those kids have, and I was like, that's bleak.
Yeah.
Like, breaking someone, like, that's really bleak. And
Piper at the end is like, we're not doing that anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's terrible.
Her.
And because it's awful. But, I thought Piper's backstory was great. I really like Piper a lot. I think it's hilarious that her dad, I mean, like, she's Native American, so is her father, which is great. And the book opens with her schoolmates being overtly and openly racist, which I was like, whoa, okay. But then it's revealed that her dad is essentially Gerard Butler from 300, which I thought was really funny. I was like, oh yeah, he's Leonidas. I was like, wait, I remember this part. Yeah, he played Leonidas in 300, essentially.
Phenomenal.
Which I was like, what a hilarious
I love that
bit.
flex. Yeah.
And the stuff that her and Leo particularly have to go through in this book, they're I mean, like,
deep family trauma.
Truly, like, she, and it's somewhat is stereotypes, but I mean, it works. Like, she's the kid who is in these schools and stuff. I mean, partially because of all the in-world stuff, and that's, demigods are ADHD and dyslexic, but because she also is acting out because it's the only way to get her dad to pay attention to her.
Yeah, and I think her journey is so beautiful too, of her, like, also trying to get her dad to, like, accept who he is and, like, love who he is and love his background.
Well, because it's also a story about, like, she's like, why don't you play any Native American parts?
And like, for her to, like, call it out in her dad is so interesting, and, like, also for her to learn and being like, what's that? Like,
and then Leo has to deal with the fact that his mother died, he thinks, partially because it's his fault, and so he turns into the clown, who has a really, really tragic backstory, who just runs from it and hides with humor.
His mom was such a good mom.
Yeah.
She loves him so much. All the quotes, anytime he quoted his mom, I was like, highlight that.
And Hera's there the whole time being
creepy.
God.
So
Hera
creepy.
sucks. She sucked in the first series too, and now she's like a big part of this one, and I'm like, God, Hera's the worst.
Well, she got a little bit of redemption in this one, and being like, she's got a lot of, which I think is interesting, especially knowing her, like, being the goddess of marriage, and like, her relationship with Zeus's children from other not marriages, and I think she's such an intriguing character. She does overall pretty much suck. I find it interesting we got a little bit more of her. And well, I mean,
because she is intrinsically tied to Jason, because Jason was given to her, essentially, and not Hera. He was given to the wolf, but whatever Hera's Roman aspect is.
Oh yes,
I'm forgetting the name of. Jupiter is
Juno.
Juno, thank you. Man, I am really off my game today. Sorry, but and speaking of the different aspects of the gods, I always really love the world building. I will say, in the Percy Jackson series, I will say, this book stretches it to its absolute breaking point with, like, he's like, I don't really remember specific instances, but I'm like, there's definitely retconning happening
here.
Well,
you know what was funny? I had a thought the other day where I actually kind of love, and I have a lot of respect for authors who can retcon, and I can buy it. Yeah. Because so often that'll happen where, like, somebody will write a world and it explodes. And then they either have to continue writing within that world, not having planned it, or they have to write in a new world. And so I always find it, I mean, because so many of the authors that I love, Sarah J. Maas, is queen of retconning. Because, well, I mean, you've kind of said that with Throne of Glass, like, the way where it's like, oh, okay, I'm in this now, and now I have more ideas. And so I always, even when I can, like, read it outright of being like, oh, I see what you're doing. You're like over-explaining something because this doesn't exist and you had to find a way to make it exist. I have so much respect for it, and I also find it fascinating. So I'm like, how are you going to make this work? And so that, for me, I actually found really delightful.
I liked...
Because there was a lot.
There was a lot of it.
You had to. I mean, you had to.
They're introducing an entire secondary pantheon that's based on the first one, which it was historically as well. So
well, and I also think, too, and I know you were as well, like, as a young kid, I was always fascinated by different cultures and their gods, and specifically Greek, Roman, Egyptian, Norse gods. Like, I've always been fascinated with that, so this was a little
I like that we got the explanation that it's like, and I do like that part that Piper brought up in the very beginning. She's like, how do all the gods have kids that are the same? Like, how does one
They're
god
like,
have
"Oh,
so
we're just,
many
like,
kids that
everywhere
have
all
the
the
same
time."
age? And I was like, that's a great question, Piper. It's a great question. Yeah, truly. I loved that Festus came back as well.
Festus.
Yeah, Festus.
Him and Leo are the bestest.
Okay.
They really are. I loved the whole like bunker situation. Leo finding the bunker,
cool. Yeah.
And I also think because we got such depth with Leo from the beginning, I was so excited in the moments in his chapters when he got to really come alive.
Yes.
Where, you know, coming to the bunker, he's like, "Oh, I got this." Like you could see the like sparkles coming out of him, and yeah, I loved that.
Yeah, I mean, I really liked Leo's journey in this whole thing. I mean, from his point of view, which we would never have gotten if it wasn't multi-POV. So I'm glad that it is.
Yeah.
But like his continuing theme of like I always run, and at the very end of the book, he's like, I don't want to go anywhere else, which I was like, that's really great.
Well, and I also think like he definitely is the clown, but he has so much. There's so much meat to him.
Well, yeah, because he just wants a girlfriend.
Oh boy,
so
is
bad.
He just a little? Can I say horny?
He's
I probably
super
shouldn't
horny.
say it about a teen.
Teens are horny.
He's a horny teen. You're right.
He's a horny teen.
There was a quote, and I can't find it now. I swear. Oh, there was something really great where he said right in the beginning that was like, "That chick's hot." Like everything he said was just like, "She's really hot."
Yeah.
Everyone he encountered, like, "She's hot. She'd probably date me."
Maybe she'll date me. I don't know.
I do love, he had like a whole like inner monologue with Thalia. He was like, "She's way cooler than me. She would kick my butt. She definitely would never date me. She's so my type."
I want her so bad, yeah. And speaking of Thalia, the fact that she's Jason's sister, technically maybe half-sister, since it was Jupiter and Zeus in a different aspect. I thought that was that particularly. I was like, I mean, look, this is cool.
We're trying,
but like, whoa, that's a lot. Like,
yeah.
You're really pushing that. But I mean, it was really interesting and adds to the tragedy of Thalia's mom and Thalia. You know, knowing that she had a brother the whole time that she just never mentioned. I will say one of the big things that I was like, okay, come on now, was there was one point where they were talking to Hephaestus, I think. And Hephaestus, like, basically let slip about his second aspect. And I went, don't do that. We've run into Hephaestus before. He didn't almost accidentally reveal that he is an entire other aspect. Don't do that now just because it's, like, part of the plot. Like, you've given us the hints enough. I really liked, though, the, like, Easter egg drops of the other kids with the purple shirts.
Yeah, me too.
That I really liked. I was like, cool, great.
I was like, okay, we have the orange shirts.
Yeah, we have the orange shirts, we got the purple shirts.
Well, and we're obviously going to get more of them.
Yeah, we are. I mean, did you know that there was like a Roman camp, or did you just assume that from the beginning?
I kind of assumed.
Yeah.
There was one purple shirt reference too many that I was finally like,
oh, purple. I got it now.
It's not like someone pretending to be Jason. It's the fact that there's orange shirts and then purple shirts.
There's orange shirts and
purple
shirts.
The purple shirts are like the orange shirts from Camp Half-Life.
Yeah.
I don't always catch on very quickly, so.
I am,
You're a catcher on.
Yeah. I mean, but I also had read this before.
You are a catcher on her, though. You're pretty good.
Sometimes, yeah. But yeah, I'm excited for the Roman camp, and I mean, who knows? Percy is there. We think Percy is there. So who knows how he's doing?
I just want him to just be like completely different, like just like either like taken over or just be like the comedic relief, which he's not going to be.
Who knows?
I would love to see like Percy, having lost his memory, just like develop a completely different personality.
That would be very funny.
I think it would be very funny. Like comedic.
Hopefully he doesn't date someone other than Annabeth.
Oh, she will. She will kill them. They will die. Immediately.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we should talk about Jason a little bit. The main character? I don't know, the leader at least.
I don't know. The setup of this book was so different. I don't feel like it could be just Jason's book. He's very obviously the
like leader of the group.
Yeah, the leader of the group, but also like the hinge of the story. But I don't think he was necessarily.
Yeah, the mystery of his memory is the main hinge of the story for sure, and
obviously his connection to Zeus, the king of the gods, which I did also think it was interesting to get more of a child of Zeus, like more than we did.
I like a lot that we get a
and
like our main character is
lightning powers.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's fun.
I will say when he like pulled out the coin and flipped it, and it was a sword, I was like, we're doing this again? But it's cool that it can also turn into a lance.
Yeah, it could be basically whatever he needs.
Yeah, I know. And it's not celestial bronze, it is imperial gold.
Some sort of gold, yeah.
Yeah. But, you know, this book was really about, like, Jason leading us to, oh yeah, there's a Roman camp and the Roman gods are a thing. And also, like, he's like the Roman Percy. He's super cool. And look, and yes, it's kind of childish and stupid to break it down to that, but that is kind of what it's about. Mm-hmm. And it does a good job, I think. Like, Jason is shown as extremely proficient. Mm-hmm. You know, the allusions to the fact that he fought a Titan one-on-one was really cool.
He was totally
defeated. The bit where he, like, yells out his titles at the giant, I was like, yeah, that's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, you sound
pretty dope, actually.
You sound pretty ancient and cool.
Yeah. I will say that there is one fight in particular where they're fighting Echidnas. I don't know how to say that. Do you know the giant? They're fighting the giant. And the way that it's... This is not something I've ever paid too close attention to in these books, but it stuck out to me. There were certain bits where they were talking about moving this giant that they said was 30 feet tall. Mm-hmm. And they were talking about doing things that, like, made him fall over and stumble. And
they're powerful. Yeah, they're powerful.
Okay.
Come on, they're good.
Okay.
I did find it interesting that our big bad is, like, Mother Earth.
Yes.
That was interesting.
Oh yeah, of course you wouldn't have known that. I already did. And so I forgot that was a reveal.
Of course. Of course you didn't.
Yeah, how do you feel about that? I mean, because Gaia is the...
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, she's extreme... Do you think... I think if nothing else, however you feel about it, extremely sinister. For sure.
Oh, 100%. Well, that's...
With the sleeping lady, like...
I think I was kind of reading it of being like, what's the overall message we've got going on?
Oh, I don't know that there is.
I know, but I think I'm like, if Mother Earth, if Gaia herself is the one that is like the big bad, I'm like, what is the story?
The story is the same as it was in mythology.
I know, but I have a hard time believing that, like, Mother Earth
I don't remember. Maybe there is another story going on. But
it'll be interesting. I think that was I was struggling believing in her as the big bad because I'm like, no, Mother Earth is Gaia. She's great. Mother Earth is amazing. I don't know. We'll see. I'm just gonna read it and see what happens.
See what happens.
I did think that was an unexpected plot twist, I suppose. That it is indeed literally Mother Earth.
Yeah, I will say, I think it's... I know that the giants are like the big bads in Greek mythology. I don't know as much about Roman.
Legs.
I do think it's interesting that, like, the story still feels like it's following Greek mythology, and I could be totally wrong here. I've not read a history textbook in a while, but it's interesting that we're this is clearly, like, kind of, it's going to be the Greeks and the Romans, but it's the introduction of the Romans, so especially this first book feels like it's like this is going to be about the Romans, but there's not really, like, Roman mythology of the giants versus the gods is the thing that happens after the Titans versus the gods.
Yeah.
And that's Greek. That's all Greek.
Here we go.
So it is kind of... I did think that was kind of strange, but I don't... again, I could be wrong, and I also don't know, like, what you would replace that with the Roman equivalent of. But I will also say... I don't really remember a lot that happened in this series. I only read this series once, and I have very vague memories of it. But overall, and I know that the giants, as I said, are like the true threat to the gods. The Titans are just more interesting to me.
No,
as like bad guys. Like the giants are like, okay, and that's not the fault of Riordan. That's just I'm just like I think the Titans are cool. I know who the Titans are.
Well, and the Titans each kind of like the Titans also have like types. Like there's just such specific things about them that are also very scary.
Yeah.
Like generally we just like got giants.
Well, the giants are all each giant. There's like an anti-Zeus giant or anti-Athena giant, and so like there's each one is like a specific thing, but. I mean, like, you don't grow... I mean, like, you don't... I don't know. Just in life, I've been like, I know the names of some of the Titans.
100%.
I couldn't tell you a name of a single giant.
Yeah, we don't have as many of those references.
So that's not really Riordan's fault. It's just, I'm interested to see, like, how I feel about the plot going forward and, like, the big bads. So, what do you want to rate this book out of?
Dragons.
Okay. I can try and find, like, a metal dragon,
like a
maybe.
steampunk dragon.
I'll do my best to find some kind of... steampunk-looking dragon. I don't know how successful I'll be, but I'll do my best. And so how many steampunk dragons would you give this out of 5?
I think I'd give it 3.5.
3.5? Yeah?
Yeah.
That's good.
What about you?
I would give this a 4, I think. A 4 steampunk dragons out of 5. Pretty close. I'm not sure. I kind of waffle a little bit back and forth. I do think that there were... As we said, there were some issues with the book. I do think it really struggled in the middle there, but I think that the ending was very good.
For me, the most positive was the characters and how much we got on the characters. The pacing and the length, it just drawled on for me a little bit.
Yeah. A strong end of... if you've watched enough of these videos, you'll probably realize a strong ending for me will forgive a lot of things. Oh, I get that.
No, I totally get that.
So, I'm hoping that the next one goes on, though, based on the title. If I remember correctly, we're going to move entirely to a different place. So... we'll see. But, so those are our thoughts on The Lost Hero, starting a new series. Very, very exciting. If you want to watch any of our videos about the Percy Jackson series, the original one, you can find a link to the playlist in the description down below, as well as above my head here. Let us know what you think of this first book. What is your favorite series in the Riordanverse? Do you like this one, or do you like the original Percy Jackson series more? Or do you like the Kane Chronicles, or Trials of Apollo, or the Magnus Chasing the Gods of Asgard? What's your favorite Riordanverse series? Let us know down below. And yeah, thank you all so much for watching, and...
we'll see you on our next adventure.